How are you going?
G'day, Bram. How you doing? I'm very well. Pleased to be here as usual.
Fantastic. Great to be back. And the lovely Kylie Denton joining us in Brizzy. How are you?
Uh, I'm great, Bram. I'm really great.
Brilliant. We've got an excellent guest also joining us today. His name is Derrick McManus. Like me, he's a South Australian boy. Derrick, welcome to the show.
Great to be here with you, Bram, and again with you, Bram, and great to meet you, Arthur and Kylie, as well.
Likewise.
Well, you just got back, Derrick. We're going to get right into it. Right back from the Kokoda track, where you have done an amazing feat. Could you just quickly get us up to speed what you've done there? With along with a lot of other people and the amount of money you guys raised for a charitable cause.
Yeah, thanks, Bram. So I've just got back from walking the Kokoda track in Papua New Guinea. It is rated as it's rated as number 7 on the top 10 hardest treks in the world. We went there myself and 3 other people were raising funds for 2 charity organisations around men's mental health. We took 40 people away with us, and our focus was on creating ambassadors that could come back and have more conversations and have a greater impact in community on men's mental health and mental health generally. And as a result of taking those people away, we raised $177,000. And we are extremely proud of the money, but more happy with the fact that we've now got 40 more people in community who know more about mental health and are prepared to have conversations with people.
Yeah, amazing.
That's an amazing feat. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well done.
And let me tell you, every one of those 44 people, including us, struggled on the track. My gosh, it was hard. There's no two ways about it. But as I mentioned just earlier, the 4 pillars of Kokoda track, the soldiers that fought and those who died, courage, endurance, sacrifice, and mateship. And those 4 pillars are also pivotal to us looking after each other in community as well. So there was a great link between Kokoda track and mental health.
Absolutely, and there's a great link that you just mentioned from the soldier side of the perspective. You've been an let's say, trained policeman, but also part of the Star Group. And as part of that sort of journey that you're on, one day you found yourself with a gunman, completely on your own. You were shot 14 times and you were there left on the ground for about 3 odd hours. Could you just walk us through that whole experience in a nutshell and the main things you gotten out of that experience?
Yeah, thank you, Bram. Again, yes, you're right. There's a connection there between the track and what I was doing. I was in the police Star Group here in South Australia, and Star Group is special task and rescue. So high risk arrest, hostage siege, counter-terrorism, helicopter operations, VIP security to the Queen when the Queen came to visit, cliff rescue, cave rescue, mine rescue. So all the things I absolutely love. My mother has a slightly different opinion of them, but I love them. And part of that training, I went away to the military and trained with the elite SAS in counter-terrorism. So there's that real tight connection. But as you alluded to, we went out to arrest a guy back in 1994. He made it very clear he didn't want to be arrested when he started shooting. He fired 18 times with a Chinese military rifle, the same that the Chinese use when they go to war. He hit me 14 times. I went there with 4 other members of Star Group, but because of what the shooter was doing, they weren't able to get to me immediately. We had to call for backup, and that backup took 3 hours to get there. Now, a lot of people say, 3 hours, you're Star Group, you're supposed to be right there on the spot. If this had happened to anybody else, we were the response team and it was a country location, so it would have taken us about 45 minutes to get there. But we were the response team. We were the ones in trouble. We had to call for the backup team. The backup team were out training at another location. They had to get back to base, rekit, regroup, and get out to where we were. So that's what took the 3 hours. My mates were pinned down by what the shooter was doing. They couldn't get to me. And even when the guys did get to me, they risked their lives to come in and get me. But for the 3 hours that I was lying on the ground, I was fully conscious, aware of everything that was happening to my body, recognizing my blood bleeding out of me and pooling on the ground next to me. I felt my body closing down. So as my blood got lower, it got rerouted from the peripherals, my arms and my legs, into the core of the body, and I felt that closing down. I was lying there for 3 hours, and I knew there were 4 things that I really needed to do. One was control panic. And control panic is about emotional control, our state control, our mindset. Being able to control that panic is absolutely essential, because when we can control the panic, we can take more control of the rest of our response. So the first one was to control panic. The second one was to control shock, and that's our body's physiological response to trauma, whether it's physical or psychological. The third one was to slow down my heart rate, and the fourth one was to slow down my breathing. Now, obviously, the breathing was going to slow down my heart rate as well. But for the 3 hours that I was dealing with being hit 14 times and having multiple massive life-threatening injuries, I had to deal with my mindset and that physiology as well.
Wow, what a story. Guys, any questions that you guys have, particularly for Derrick?
Look, for me, first of all, Derrick, thank you for your service to our community and our people. And what a story of survival and resilience. And in that moment, I mean, look, for me, it's words can't explain. I can't relate whatsoever. I've never been in such a situation. So amazing story of survival. And the fact that you're here talking about it so openly and allowing us to tap into that experience and seeing you so what's the word, strong is a true testament to yourself as an individual. But I'm going to go back before the training, because I think the obvious question would be is, how did you prepare for that? And it's all the training, but there must be, before the training, it must have been your upbringing. There must have been something in your early childhood or something like that that gave you the intestinal fortitude to be able to deal with such a trauma event. Is there anything like that that you could share with us? You know, what were your values growing up? What were the, I guess, the role models in your life? There must be a compounding story here.
Yeah, thank you, Arthur. And there's so many things I want to pick up on what you've just said. To address the most obvious out of it, I think I was an ordinary kid who grew up in an ordinary background with ordinary parents and an ordinary family. Now, when I say ordinary, my brother and I used to fight like cat and dog. My sister and I, we get on well now, but there was that undermining of each other and teasing and all that sort of great interaction. An ordinary family, my parents, very, very supportive, always positive. My father's favorite statements were always things like, look for the silver lining. In every storm cloud, there is a silver lining behind the cloud. Look for that silver lining, because that's, blah, blah. But as a child growing up, I was nothing exceptional. I wasn't a great athlete. I was certainly not a great scholar. I wasn't the most popular kid. In fact, I felt like I was bullied throughout my school life, but had a really good, close group of friends that, I still have as my best friends today from high school. I think the most valuable thing for me was my parents making me face reality and never going, oh, we're going to protect you, we're going to look after you. We're always there to support you. But Derrick, you made a choice. You need to take responsibility for that choice. And I think that alone led me to looking at my life a little bit differently. So when I went into Star Group, one of the things that I did was look at my choice. I'm going into Star Group. I certainly looked at it when I went into the police force, but I took it to another level when I went into Star Group. And I said, I'm going into a place where I may be shot and injured, I may be shot and killed. Now, that could happen in the police generally, but I was now in a more intense situation. And what I like to talk about these days to people around taking responsibility for our choices is 4 levels of responsibility. We need to take responsibility for that initial choice. I'm going into Star Group. I'm going to do this. I'm looking forward to it. We need to take responsibility for our behaviors within there. I knew it was going to be high risk arrest, hostage siege, jumping in and out of helicopters, abseiling, climbing, all this exciting stuff. I knew that. But I also knew that I needed to take responsibility for consequences, both good and bad, right? And the consequences, good, excitement, challenge, leadership, experience, all those sorts of sensational things, but also taking really conscious responsibility for that consequence that I may be shot and injured, I may be shot and killed. And I'll tell you a story that really reinforces the fact that I consciously did that. But the other thing was to take responsibility for the future after any of those consequences. So to reinforce what I just said, when I decided I was going into Star Group, I sat down with my wife, my ex-wife now, and said, real possibility I may be shot and injured, I may be shot and killed. And my question to her was, if I die, what's your life going to look like? And that was my first question, because I wanted her to be on the same page as me, taking responsibility, aware of what the risks might be and what the consequences of those risks might have impact on her life. And I did this, and it's a very confronting thing to say. If I die, what will your life look like? I'm going into this environment. So sometimes, because those conversations become overwhelming, we need to just break them down a little bit and take the emotion out of it. And I tend to do that with a little bit of humor. So when we started having this discussion, I said, as I see it, there are 3 options. And it wasn't about me saying, this is what I want you to do. This is what you have to do. If I'm no longer here, this is how you have to look after our children. It was me saying, I want to support whatever you choose to do. So we discussed the fact that she may choose to go on and get married. And if she does that, I fully support it and look after my children and have someone who loves my children, all those sorts of things. She may decide to stay single. And if she decides to stay single, that's her choice. And I fully support that. Just make sure that you're good, children are good, blah, 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 or all those things. But the third option that I threw to her was that if she she could choose to get married, she could choose to stay single, or she could choose to build a little shrine in the corner and just worship me every day. And that just broke the tension for her, because it's kind of overwhelming. Oh my gosh. And then I said, and you can build a little shrine if you want. And it was like, Derrick, just shut up. Let's get back. But it broke the conversation, the tension, and we're able to continue that conversation. But it comes down to consciously taking responsibility on those 4 levels in the front line. The other thing that I'd like to pick up on, Arthur, is you said that being shot 14 times and being able to respond to that, you find it hard to relate to because it's not a choice or a situation that you would see yourself in. And this is something that I need to be very aware of whenever I talk to anybody. So when I run my workshops or I do a keynote and I travel the world like you guys do with all this work. But when I talk to people, I make it very clear that I prepared myself for what I could really expect to encounter in my life as a result of the choices that I've made. My choices going into the police, going into Star Group, and lots of other choices, getting married, driving XYZ car, whatever it might be. But I prepared myself for I prepared myself realistically for what I could expect to encounter as a result of those choices. Now, you will not ever find yourself in a place where you are going to be in an environment where you can anticipate you could get shot 14 times. I have absolutely no problem with that at all. And most of in fact, 99% of my clientele would not be able to anticipate that. So how can I make that relatable? What I like to tell people is I want them to prepare for the challenges they can realistically expect to encounter as a result of the choices they have made. So what is your future looking like? You're in business, you're a family person, you're a sporting person, you live in community, you're making choices about building business, all these sorts of things. So I want people to prepare for their challenges and how they can better prepare for them. One of the examples I like to use is that we can all respond to our challenges at the perfect level for how we've been trained. So if you think about back in the day, you learned to drive a car, and if you can remember the first time you stepped in behind that steering wheel of this car, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, this is dangerous, this is overwhelming, I'm going to kill someone, how am I going to be able to do this, will I ever have the skill? And everybody experiences that. Okay, the majority of people experiences that. There's a couple of outliers, but most people go through this, oh my god, how am I going to be able to do it? And then you start learning how to, and you're starting to build up a little bit of confidence. Eventually you get your license, and then you're driving on your own. What do you think about when you're driving these days? You're thinking about my business, you're thinking about dinner tonight, you're thinking about all the people that are around you, you're singing to the tunes, you're talking to the kids, you're doing all. But if something happens in front of you, you can respond immediately without even thinking about it. It is second nature, because you are well prepared for the challenge that you can expect in driving that car. And now I take people on the journey of, let's look at the other challenges in your life and better prepare for them. I prepare for what I did, and I've got a framework for how I did that. I take that framework to your challenges and help you build confidence and courage and belief in your capacity to be able to manage those challenges.
Let's go to Kylie.
Thank you, Derrick.
We can't hear you for a moment.
Sorry, Derrick. I'm just in. You are so brave.
Thank you.
What you have done, and I'm sure the experiences that you've had must have an impact on your mindset. The things you've experienced, and seen, and overcome, they must have had an impact on you as a human. What do you think your purpose in life is?
Thank you, Kylie. Those experiences certainly have had an impact on my mindset, but I honestly believe my mindset was there before the shooting.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Bram. And we've spoke extensively about this. My mindset was there before the shooting. The fact that I was prepared to sit down with my wife, and this conversation was 5 years prior to the shooting, about, if I get shot, what's your life going to look like? So my mindset was there beforehand. It allowed me to do what I did while I was on the ground, but it then also set me up for the success and the growth afterwards. One of the things that surprises people is that I did not experience PTSD, anxiety, stress, or depression as a result of the shooting. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't have some of the experiences that go along with PTSD and all those things. I had panic attacks, I had flashbacks, I had nightmares, but I didn't let them control me. Pardon?
Yeah. Didn't stop you.
It didn't stop me, no, and they didn't stay with me, because when I had that conversation with my wife, I then went away for myself and I said, if I do get shot, what's it going to feel like? What's it going to be like for me? What will the future be like afterwards if I do get shot? What will my mind want to do? What will my body want to do? And I anticipated that other people have had these experiences, and they've had flashbacks and nightmares and recalls and all this sort of stuff that affects their lives. That could happen to me. How should I best handle them? And one of the most important things I did was, within 5 days of the shooting, threw my hand in there and said, get me a psych. I want to talk to a psych. Now, I say psych because that's the terminology I used at the time, but I wanted counselling. I wanted a psychologist, a psychiatrist to come and talk to me. But it's not because I thought I was weak, not because I thought I was wrong or I was broken or anything else. I wanted to do the same as I had done with my wife, and I wanted to have a conversation with that psych about, I've just been through this experience. You've seen people who have dealt with it well. You've seen people who have dealt with it badly. I want to know, what can I potentially experience? And if I do experience, how can I best handle that? And so I sat down with the psych. Let me frame this. This was 30 years ago that this happened. Back 30 years ago, and I say this in inverted commas for anybody who's just listening and not seeing the vision, but tough men don't get counseling. Tough men don't go to psychs. Tough men don't have emotions.
Not in the 90s, no way.
No way back then. But I threw my hand in there and said, get me the psych. It was the best thing I ever did. I sat down and I told them exactly what my experiences were. Flashbacks, some nightmares, some really bad dreams, reliving the moment every now and then. But they didn't stay with me, and I felt good about it because this is a normal experience. And we talked about what I might do in the future and how I might handle it. And on that day, 3 months after the shooting, the psychiatrist, one of the best in Australia, said, Derrick, you do not have PTSD, anxiety, depression. Yes, you've got some of the experiences, but they're not lasting. They're not clinically diagnosable as that. So psychologically, I could return to work the next day. He cleared me to return to work psychologically 3 months after the shooting, and said I didn't need any ongoing therapy at all, unless I chose that I needed it. He had that much faith in me. And it's that conversation and that framework that has set up what I now talk about as human durability. And a lot of it comes down to having open, honest, confronting conversations about the reality of the future as a result of our choices and our actions. And that conversation with my wife set that up before me even knowing anything about consciously being aware of this framework that I now have for human durability.
Yeah,
So how can you apply that framework, human durability, in business?
It's very, very easy. A lot of us go into business looking for the bright, shiny things. Oh my gosh, going into business is going to be absolutely sensational. I'm going to be doing this, blah, blah. But we don't consciously look at the challenges that we're going to face, other than in a peripheral way. Oh yes, I know it was going to be a problem with finance, but other people have managed it, so we should be able to get through it as well. I know that there are going to be problems with logistics, but other people have got through it. We will work it out as well. Whereas I encourage people to take a really conscious look at, what resources do you have? What gaps in your resources do you have? What are on the extremes of going into business? And that goes right down to, if the business fails, what will that look like? And so one of my clients, as a case study, is Sealy International Air Conditioning. And I spoke to their group about the fact that I sat down with my wife and said, all this, I may be shot and injured. What will your life look like? And she was able to relate to me that her husband, Frank, came to her when they started this business and it was just starting to grow. And Frank said to her, Kathy, I want to do this with the business and I want to see it grow. And if it grows, it's going to be absolutely sensational. But I also need to tell you that if it fails, we are going to be living in a tin shed at the back of the yard, and we won't have 2 pennies to rub together. That's how old this couple is. And Kathy said that she was able to say to Frank, so long as I have you by my side and I have your love, that's all I need. Anything else is a bonus. Now, that allowed Frank to go out and just focus on the business without, in the back of his mind, worrying, oh, if it fails, I wonder what I'm going to tell Kathy then. Kathy already knew that was a possibility, and they were both prepared for it. So they were able to make bolder, more powerful decisions, knowing that they weren't so worried about, if it fails, how will we handle it? We know we will. One way or another, we will. So let's go out and do this boldly, courageously. And that applies to everybody in business. Now, the other thing that I say about that, though, is that if you start looking at, oh my gosh, this is what could happen to my business, and if that happens, my marriage will fail, we will lose the house, the children won't be able to go to school, and I'm not willing to do that, then we need to start making different choices, right? Choices that are appropriate for us. what's your risk appetite? What's your risk tolerance with financial, with logistics, with relationships, all those sorts of things. So it's really taking an open, honest, confronting conversation done with care, compassion, concern about the impact that our choices are going to have on the future.
One thing that stands out every time when I speak to you, Derrick, is that the value of preparation,
Yeah.
like thorough, deep preparation.
Yeah.
You also mentioned once that there was one moment that you weren't prepared for, that really hit you hard. Can you explain like how the the disabandoning of your relationship, what happened there?
Yeah. Or, and I was going to ask, which particular time is this? Because it has happened to me a few times. And this goes back to a conversation we had earlier with you specifically, Kylie. I'm vulnerable enough to say I talk about this framework. I say how powerful it is, but I'm not perfect. I don't get it right all the time. And that's probably one of the most valuable things that I could admit to myself and go, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to get it right every time. And when I do make that mistake, it's like going, okay, I recognize the mistake. Let me get back on track. What do I need to get myself back to where I want to be? And the conversation that you're alluding to now, Bram, and thank you for leading it down this way, is that I got married reasonably young. I was 25 at the time, which is young by today's standards, old by old day standards. But when I got married, I made an absolute full commitment to one life, one love, one marriage. And if I get married, I'm going to stay married, and there was nothing ever going to break that marriage up. 2 years after the shooting, I'm starting to hear a little bit of feedback here. Is that me?
No, we're all right. Keep going, we can hear you loud and clear, Derrick.
Okay, I'm getting feedback back on this end. You're telling me it's clear?
Very good.
It's
Very
clear
good.
now.
Okay. So I made this absolute full commitment, one life, one love, one marriage, and I was going to stay married for life. 2 years after the shooting, I recognized that there were issues in my marriage which made my marriage very mediocre and very dissatisfying to me. So I did everything I possibly could to resolve that. We went to marriage guidance, we got together, we tried to find good times, not bad times. But 2 years after the shooting, my marriage broke down, and I left that marriage. It was my choice to leave, but that just totally destroyed me, because it's something that I hadn't seen coming. I was doing everything to repair it. It should have worked. And when I left that marriage, I went into PTSD. I went into depression. I went into anxiety, because I had failed and I hadn't seen it coming. And as much as I knew it was a positive step for me, I still wasn't prepared fully for it. And I found myself spiraling down into depression. I didn't realize it was depression at that time, because I dealt so well with the shooting that I thought, well, that's something that's not going to affect me. I'm better, and I say that in inverted commas, I'm better than that. But what I did recognize was that I wasn't passionate. I wasn't training hard. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't sleeping well. And as a result, I wasn't putting in the effort to get back into normal life that I thought I should be. So I went along to the doctor and said to the doctor, hey, listen, all these things, but I don't have the energy to train as hard as I want to. So tell me what pill I need to take so I can get more energy. And he's gone, Derrick, here's a questionnaire, and it's PTSD, depression, anxiety, all those things. And I've gone, you don't know my background. Tick flick, completely transparent. And he's gone, Derrick, you have mild depression and mild PTSD. And I sat there and I literally went, and this is exactly how it went. Damn. Okay, how do we deal with it? What do we do from here? And it was that quick a turnaround. Conversation that I had with that psychiatrist 2 years prior to this was depression, anxiety, PTSD could hit me at any time. It doesn't have a typical timeline of my leg's broken, it will get stronger. So I understood that it could. And when it did hit me, it was like, damn, I didn't see this coming. But what do we do to fix it? I did everything the doctor told me to do. And within 1 month, I went back just for another random checkup, or a regular checkup, but just, as it goes, just a checkup. We did the questionnaire again, and he said, Derrick, it's moved on. You are good again. You're strong again. And you can go back to doing everything you have in the past. And so the framework for human durability incorporates that as well. In one situation, I was able to sustain optimal performance and not have any psychological long-term psychological injuries, even though I went through some of the experiences in the first place. But even when I got diagnosed with mild depression and mild PTSD, and I make a very strong distinction that they were mild at the time, easier to manage when we catch them earlier. But even though I had that depression and PTSD, I was able to bounce back quickly by using the same framework.
Wonderful. Just conscious of the time, I'm trying to profusely make some notes here. Derrick. So I want to go back and just call out the 4 stages of durability that you covered at the beginning. So you talked about controlling the panic. There was 3 others. Can you just come up with those, just list those out for us again, please?
Yeah, control panic, control shock,
Yeah.
slow down my heart rate, slow down my breathing.
Yeah.
Because those 4 things would allow me to sustain or stop my bleeding as much, or slow down my bleeding, and survive for just that little while longer.
And we talked about embracing, responsibility. So the decision to be responsible, the behaviours behind that, understanding the consequences, and applying them into the future. So what I really took away from you is this conditioning. This conditioning of, and what some in sporting fields they call like playing the movie, or playing it out and seeing it play out. And so that when you see that scenario play out, when that moment comes, in the moment, you've already been there.
Correct. And that was a very important phase for me as well, because I had no idea about visualization and playing the movie and all those things. But I did go away from myself and said, if I get shot, how would I like to respond? Absolute perfect response is this end. Absolute chaos is down that end. And if it ends in chaos, what will I be able to do? And then I played it through. I visualized it as a perfect response, as a chaos response, as a mediocre response, as a mediocre challenge. And that visualization, when I got into that moment, it's like, okay, I've been here before. I know what I need to do. I have confidence. And the visualization has to be very realistic. If you want to be absolute perfect, but you don't have the skill to be perfect, you've got to call that out. You've got to acknowledge it. Open, honest, confronting conversation. I don't have that skill. So what do I need to do now to go away and prepare myself so that I can have better chance of implementing that? And that preparation, Bram, that fully conscious preparation, but also being vulnerable enough to know where your gaps are. Where am I not good? What will be my most challenging part of driving a car, starting the business, having a relationship with this person, raising children, whatever it might be? The human durability is universally applicable to our lives.
I find the refreshing side of this is that really all options are on the table for discussion and conversation and thinking it through. So maybe probably we're going to wrap up, right, Kylie? But is there anything else that you wanted to say, or a question you wanted to ask Derrick?
I just want to relate it back to our audience, because I think you've called out some really good points, and people might be going, but I'm not going to be shot. I'm not putting myself in that danger. But I think the things I'm hearing is, as business owners, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, we should all be preparing. We should all be planning. We all should be understanding our consequences. We should be managing our behaviours and making sure that we've got a really strong mindset. Okay, so they're probably the 5 keys that I took out of that. There is a question from the audience, and that is, you're an absolute inspiration, Derrick. But do you think resilience is something you're born with, or do you think anyone can build that with the right preparation and mindset? And I think what the answer is yes. I don't think you're born with it. I think we experience it, we grow from it, but we're preparing and our mindset for it.
I'm going to I agree with what you're saying. I'm going to have a little distinction. I think we are born with it. We are born with resilience, but then in our upbringing, we are trained out of it.
Yes.
Right? Everybody tells us you need to be careful. You need to not do this. Don't take this chance. This is going to destroy your life. From my experience, this will hurt you. And so we get talked out of our resilience, but we can relearn it. And that's, I've had very fortunate situations in my life that I'd love to go into more, that have brought me back to going, Derrick, you need to trust yourself. You need to believe in yourself. But you need to know where your limits are and what is comfortable for you. As we said right at the beginning, my strengths are in people, in mindset, strategy for building business. I'd have to talk to one of you guys to help me through that. It is not my strength, it's my gap. And being able to notice and recognize and know where I need to go and get help is just another strength that lots of people need to embrace, rather than going, I'm great, I can do everything, I don't need to ask. No, we all need to get help for where our gaps are.
So what's the one action you think you'd like our audience to take away from your message today, Derrick?
There's so many that I have for so many different discussions, but from today's
gold.
From today's conversation, it would be having those open, honest, confronting conversations with ourselves, and then with the people affected by our choices and our actions and our consequences. Take full responsibility for that. Have open, honest, confronting conversations done with care, compassion, concern, and wanting positive outcomes for everybody involved in it. But we've got to look at the extremes, not just what we're comfortable talking about, the extremes of our choices, the great and the massively impactful negative ones. If we do that, we will be more comfortable with planning our future.
That was great. Arthur?
Oh, look, we're just out of time. I just wanted to close off. I mean, like that's what I was asking before you did with the question around your upbringing. So, you I do believe you're right. You are kind of born with it. You're born in an environment, and sometimes the environment, in an effort to protect us, actually weakens us. And
Correct.
and I was just going on around that the playing and moving visualizations, as you're pointing out, and indoctrinating yourself into that approach. And in terms of business today, that moment, it's such a fluid environment at the moment. There's cyber risks flying everywhere. There's all these issues that are coming out. And so I think it's very important that businesses revisit this consequence management, or this conditioning of, what could happen, and are we prepared? Because it's a very fluid environment right now. So just because you've done your risk assessment a little while ago, it's very important to get back on top of it and be sure you got all your bases covered. But amazing story, Derrick. Lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
And thank you, Arthur. And just to pick up on what you were saying there are too many people who say, oh, that cyber thing, that happens to other people, that won't happen to me. And then just ignoring it and hoping it doesn't happen.
Yeah, totally. So engage and be responsible, as you say, and the condition that you just mentioned is the way to go, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Always deliver great gems and value, and I'm sure we could easily go for another 2 hours. But hey, thanks everybody for joining in. Any thoughts or questions, just post them below. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next episode. And thank you again, Derrick.
Thank you all for having me. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Derrick. Thank you.